Jim Klauck here on Contractor Stories, and I have got a friend of mine, Lenny Gray, is joining me, the door-to-door millionaire. Lenny, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jim. How are you?
Living the dream. It's great to have you. It's good to see you again, my friend.
You as well.
Love the name of your brand. And for those of you who don't know, Lenny kind of grew up in the business of knocking on people's doors as a young guy to get money from them in exchange for a service and or product. Isn't that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I started back in the late 90s with a little company called Orkin Pest Control. I think we're all fairly familiar with Orkin and Rollins there, and worked for a marketing company back in the 90s while I was, in between my college semesters in the summer, and knocked doors, sold pest control.
That seems like an old-fashioned way to sell a product. For those of you who are old enough, there used to be encyclopedia salespeople, and that was a big one, and the siding people, of course. Vacuums and
ice cream, I think.
Really, yeah. So, and Lenny, I'm old enough to remember people knocking on the door on a regular basis. This is something, though, that's still effective, and you can help people sell not just door to door, but I think by using that technique even in other ways, right? I mean, directly selling face to face.
Yeah, no, direct sales for a time was a little bit of a lost art, but I will tell you, the companies that are growing the fastest and that are becoming the most efficient companies, because the thing that door to door does is it shrinks your geographical footprint. You don't put an ad out or a billboard and you're getting people from all over the valley and the city and, that are contacting you. Door to door really consolidates your routing, and it just makes you as a company more efficient. So there's a lot of pros. That's one, but there's a lot of pros to doing direct sales and in door to door marketing in particular.
Do you believe it takes a certain individual, certain mindset, because there's a lot of rejection, right? So I know a lot of people don't want to sell at all. They don't even want to go out for a sales position. I don't want to do sales. I just want to sit in the office. Then the ones that want to do sales are like, well, can I, do it from my computer or my phone? Okay. But you're going to want me to go out, drive around a neighborhood, knock on doors, ring doorbells, ask to come in, and close them at their kitchen table. They've never even met me. They didn't call me. I'm calling them.
Yeah, it's a little bit surreal when I step back and think of the thousands of accounts I've sold door to door and in various home service industries. I consult for a lot of companies and do training, and I'm out on the doors and helping them out. It's a little surreal for me to think that I knock on somebody's door the first time they've ever met me, and within 20 minutes, they're handing me their credit card and saying, yeah, we want to go ahead and do this. It's a little bit like, wow, does that really happen? That seems more miraculous than anything, but it's really about just a system and a program. It's knowing what to say, when to say it, who to say it to, when to give up, when to go to the next door. There's a really a science behind it. And that's why I've written books and done trainings and I've developed a process that for me is very replicable for the average Joe out there. Cause I feel like that's me. I don't feel like I brought anything special to the table.
Oh, come on.
Knocking doors. I'm not a natural sell. Jim, if we're in a room and we're at a party, and we've been together and we
met at a party. Yeah.
I am the quietest. I'm one of the quietest guys in the room. I like to observe and people watch, and I'm probably on a volume level, I'm probably a 2 or a 3. I'm again, super boring, but I taught myself when I get in front of people and I have the opportunity to sell something, I ratchet that up. I call it being a 7. In one of my books, I write about that, being a 7 and the importance of bringing a certain energy to people. And I feel like I did that because I trained myself on a certain process when I know who to continue with, who to eliminate, how to do that. If you know how to do that, if you just have a process and you don't leave it up to natural ability, if I left it up to my natural ability, I would be a failure in sales. But I've left it up to a process that is tried, proven, it's true, and it's something that everybody and anybody can learn.
I've read your books. I've taken some of the techniques out of the books. And so I kind of do what you've done by knocking on doors. And I may have told you this before, but I do it for clients at a distance. So my direct response radio is kind of similar. Well, I'm not in front of that consumer, but they're consuming the information. It's like an infomercial, right? So we're talking about things and they're becoming educated. And then they basically pull out their credit card and call my client because they've been sold. Different. And I actually prefer it because I don't have to go door to door, but I use the same type of techniques because humans are humans, right? So people respond to certain things. And I know that's an important part of the process because just because someone opens their door doesn't mean they're going to open their wallet.
Sure. Yeah. And, that's the thing is the process that I teach doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's in direct sales. Anybody who touches the sales process in your company can learn this system and this program. I don't care if they're doing inbound, they're doing outbound, whatever it is. I mean, I've taught this process to a fintech company that's now a $2 billion+ company. And it was the same process and they went B2B. And it's a process that is proven in various industries, in various categories, and it works. I mean, at the end of the day, it works. The proof's in the pudding, and I just stand behind it. And I love the opportunity to teach people what I've done to create several multi-million-dollar companies or help, startups to, multi-billion-dollar companies to have a rock solid, just incredible sales program.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. To be part of all of that. So let's go back in time. I like to do this on Contractor Stories where we talk about the person behind the business, where you started. Did you always know you wanted to be working in home service? And even though going door to door isn't necessarily home service, you've done a lot of home service type of selling. Did you know as a child you wanted to go in this direction, that you wanted to be in sales? Tell me about your childhood a bit.
Yeah. So I was, I was brought up, my parents were divorced when I was really young. And then my mom got married when I was 5 or 6 years old. And she owned a small house cleaning company. It was called Top Hat Cleaning. And she's since sold it. But I remember, even at a young age, like endorsing checks, like I'd stamp the checks for her. She'd give me some menial tasks to do for the business. I'd occasionally go out and clean a ski condo or something, on the weekend as they were turning those over. So I was actually involved in the home service industry from a young age. Never thought that would be my trajectory or my path. In fact, I went to school. I got a degree in broadcast communications. So I was going to be a news guy or, on TV and those things that I was doing in college. But yeah, just the opportunity to be in an industry that's so valued and so needed. And I respect so much. I respect business owners so much in this space because I've been one myself, for the past 20+ years. So it's one of those things that I feel like I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to start door to door, again, doing pest control. And that's just led me into a whole different world of home service companies and industries that I can, again, hopefully benefit from teaching a sales program or a sales process that anybody can use.
Absolutely. How old were you when you first knocked on a door for a business where you were selling a service or product?
So that would have been, I served a 2-year church mission. And so I knocked on doors for 2 straight years. That was kind of my introduction into knocking on doors. And you think, selling pest control is hard, try religion. But for pest control, I was 22 years old the first summer, 21, turning 22, the first summer that I knocked doors.
Was that after you graduated from school?
No, that was in between. So in between right out of high school, I did it my freshman year of college. I served a 2-year mission. Then I went back, my sophomore, junior, and in between my senior year and graduating, I sold for 3 straight summers.
Have you ever thought about where you would be if you hadn't knocked on doors? What would you be doing, do you think?
I probably have pursued the broadcast communication thing. Here's the interesting story, Jim. So, I'm into this program and I'm an anchor for the news channel, the local news channel. And I was doing these things and I was taking internships and getting job offers from these podunk little towns, all over the place to get started up. The challenge for me was I learned what news folks made, reporters and anchors made when I was already into the program far enough. I didn't want to necessarily change. But when I realized I was making just as much in the summers when I was knocking doors selling pest control that I would make in a year doing the news, and I would have to have worked holidays and weekends and all these things, it kind of became a no-brainer to me to go, yeah, I think I'll stick with home services because the ceiling's a lot higher than maybe what it was. And I still have people I went to school with that are, evening news anchors and weather gals and guys, and it's fun. It's fun to see them on TV and see their trajectory and what is making them happy. It was a fun time, but at the same time, I never would have changed anything with what I did getting into home services.
There's a big difference in those careers. One is more of being an artist where people can see you, where a lot of people want to be in that business. Not many people want to knock on doors. I'll be honest with you. If someone said, hey, look, I'll pay you X amount to be on camera or X amount to knock on doors, I'd be like, I'll do the camera thing. Okay. That sounds like something I want to do. Cause look at everyone today on social media, right? They're all on camera. They love it. Everyone's got this ego and so forth. Knocking on doors isn't as appealing. But you brought up something that's interesting. A lot of people don't know this. There's a lot of money to be made in home service. I know a lot of home service millionaires. Matter of fact, that's the name of Tommy Mello's book, one of his books, right? And it's incredible. The more time I've been spending with contractors, and it's been 20 years that I've been working closely in marketing and advertising with home service professionals. A lot of people in the white collar space who go to college, get their MBA, who just hire the plumber or who just hire the HVAC guy, I don't think they know. They could be making more money than the homeowner.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, I remember knocking one summer in particular, and a little boy was with his mom, and I was getting him signed up for a pest control deal, and the little boy turns to his mom and he says, "Mom, I want to do what he does when I grow up." And it was cute, just this little boy. And his mom looked at him and she says, "Oh, I'm sure this man's wife does not like what he does for a living." And I just, I'm not the type of guy to say, "Oh yeah, well look at me." I just laughed it off and said, "Oh yeah, my wife probably wished I was a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that." But I knew what kind of money I was making and my lifestyle. That's what I loved about it as well, is the lifestyle that I could have to make all the money that I needed to make, at least as a younger guy, in 4 months. And I could focus on school. I could focus on family. I could focus on those important things. I didn't have to necessarily knock doors all year, per se.
So when you were knocking doors in the early days, I'm sure you had no idea how much influence you would have and how much you could help educate other door knockers or people just in business.
Yeah, it was interesting when I first started. And again, this is in the late 90s. The company that I worked for, they gave me a manual that was, 10, 12 pages long. And I had the thing memorized in like a week. And I was like, this is really it. This is all that you can teach me. And so I was kind of set, like that's one of the visions of me writing 2 books and, providing other training materials for companies and business owners is I just want to teach people what I wish I would have had when I first started. There's so many more layers to the onion than what was there. And I also think that door to door, to a certain extent, has such a bad reputation. Right. It's kind of this, you have to lie, cheat, and steal to be good at sales in general, let alone door to door. That's, as I call it, the armpit of all sales. I think if you can do door to door, you can do anything with sales, by the way. But to me, it was like, no, I actually do this in an ethical and an honest way. I have a system and a process that I use. And once I follow that, like I just wanted to teach people how to do it to really for the betterment of the home service industries, the door-to-door industries, those that were using that technique to sell.
So when you were younger, who was the biggest influence in your life?
So definitely my mom. Again, she was there with me from day one, went through a pretty nasty divorce. And I always relied on her. I was talking to my daughter, one of my daughters the other night about these conversations. We were just having a really good heart to heart, father-daughter conversation. And I was talking to her about how I remember sitting on the front porch with my mom almost every Sunday night. That was kind of our time to we sat on the porch as the sun was setting. and we would just chat about life and, the week ahead and what was going on. And she just, my dad was a police officer. He worked graveyard. So, my dad was busy a lot and didn't have, and this was my adopted dad, just didn't have a lot of time because he was sleeping during the day. And so my mom just took that time with me, which I loved. So I'm a total mama's boy, and I'm proud to be so.
No, but that's a great story. That's so important. I know that you're a family man, and family is important. And being able to do what you do today, helping others with the experience you have, must afford you the luxury of structuring your day, your week, your month to put your priorities straight, which is probably your family, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I always, I think we hear about this a lot. It's a little bit cliche, but there's so much truth to it. Am I doing the things today that my future self is going to thank me for? Mm-hmm. And I really have that perspective with what I do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. Do I want to knock doors a lot of times, or go out and teach and critique, other door-to-door reps, go shadow them on the doors? Do I want to really, dive in and have to undo a lot of, wrong ways that people are doing selling, and teach them the right way, and really try to help them be the most effective? I mean, just like anybody else, man, Jim, if I go to knock a door and I do it regularly, especially in training now, like my heart I get super nervous. I don't love to be there. It's not something that I'm like, oh boy, I get to knock doors. This is going to be fun. But I always say, if I put in the work today, my future self will thank me. And I've just kind of always had that mentality that, hey, if it's difficult now, it's going to increase my capabilities by doing difficult things, which I love. That's one of our family mottos, that we can do difficult things. And so I increase my abilities, so the next time I have to do something difficult, it's not going to be as difficult as it was when I was doing the thing prior. So,
do you have any regrets?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have regrets. I tend not to look at my regrets and feel bad for myself or get down on those. I think most successful people would say, these regrets are stepping stones to successes, and what our future selves are. But certainly, there's been times in business what do they say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And it's like, I've definitely decided not to take some shots. I probably should have stayed with some things a little longer than I did. Maybe we sold some of our companies. We were acquired a little earlier than we should have been. Got into a Ponzi scheme at one point unknowingly. I mean, there's just business decisions, and I'm more of the mindset of live and learn. We all have regrets, but there's no reason to look at the world in a way that is just our regrets. That's what we base ourselves on. That can be a very negative way, and we don't need to beat ourselves up. Like every regret gives you another opportunity. I believe to make something of that regret, of that learning experience, maybe more so than call it a regret. I'd say from a learning experience. Well, now I'm better because of that experience that I had.
I agree. There's not much we can do about things we regret. As far as I know, we're not going to be able to go back in time. And even so, you might regret going back in time and making a change of that regret, because whatever we've done in life has got us to where we are. And if you're miserable today, then you need to start changing things. But if you're pretty good about where you are, then you shouldn't have any regrets, because that's what got you here. And exactly. I have the same philosophy you do. It's a learning experience. I've done some stuff that I wish I hadn't done, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I just got to keep moving forward and call it a learning experience.
I love it. Yep. That's exactly it.
You've written some great books about knocking on doors, the Door-to-Door Millionaire, and subsequent books. We're going to have those listed in the show notes for everybody so they can check those out. So I know that you write books. I'm assuming you're a reader. And if so, what book influenced you most?
Yeah, interesting. Before I'd written my book, and I'm an English minor, so I had to read a lot of books, a lot of literature, I would say, not really self-help or business related books. And so that was kind of my world in college. And I was not much of a reader. Now, I will say, as far as reading the good books, right, the scriptures and those kind of things, I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a Christian, and so I'm reading all of those books that help me bring me closer to God. But outside of that, I didn't read a lot. And then my wife, this is before I had written my book, she had said, "Hey, I actually, somebody gave me this book, and I think it would just be nice. It's kind of about sales, but not really. But maybe you should read it." And that book was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that book, and that was the only book I had read in that space before I'd written my own book. Since then, as we know, we mentioned our good friend Tommy Mello. One of his lines is leaders are readers. And I've known Tommy for several years now. And so, I digest a book a month now at the least. Sometimes if it's the right book and I'm rolling, it might be maybe one every couple of weeks. But I'm a big audio listener. I love books. But How to Win Friends and Influence People is a standard. There's a lot of books that have helped me along the way. I've got a stack of them. There it is. Yes, there it is.
Here's an old version.
An old one.
It's an old one, but I keep it right here.
I love it. So no, if anybody ever wanted a book recommendation or join a book club with me, I'd be happy to do that, because I love, again, listening more so than reading. But I love learning. I think more important than anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. Leaders are readers. You cannot really win today if you don't educate. One of the best ways to educate is by reading or listening to Audible, which I do a lot of that now. For me, I like to be about a book a week. I sometimes cheat by saying, well, I haven't listened to that book or read the book in 3 years, so I'm going to do it again. So I still include that because I get more out of it later, because I can now apply things that I couldn't before, or I just forgot about it. And some of them are so inspirational. It's like reading the Bible. It's like, oh yeah, you got to keep doing it. You don't read it just once, right? Some of these you keep reading over and over. That's why I've got this old version of the book here. Yeah. So throughout your life, what would you say, Lenny, was your biggest win? We've all had wins and losses. What's the biggest win you've had in your life?
Marrying my wife. That would be my biggest win. 100%.
So, are you sure?
Not even close. So
that's the number one answer, by the way, when I ask this question.
Well, good. I guess I hope people have as good of a relationship with their wife as I have with mine. We've been married, 26 years, and just 5 kids. It's been great. It hasn't been all rainbows and sunshines, every time. We've had our ups and downs, like any married couple, I imagine, that's been together for a significant amount of time. But at the end of the day, she's the perfect fit for me. We couldn't be probably more different in some aspects of our life, but it just creates this balance for us. And yeah, that's the biggest win for me by far.
You described the relationship I have with my wife. We love each other. We're like this. And we, for 25 years, we've been together moving through life, but we don't have a lot in common. Yeah. We have children in common and we love each other, but we don't do some of the same activities and interests, which is interesting, but that's okay. They say opposites attract. So I guess, in some ways we are. And, but that is the number one answer. And I'm not trying to test anyone on that, but it's really interesting because most people will say it's their significant other. Do you believe having a wife, in your case, a spouse that's by your side and obviously believes in you, is important for not just your personal life, but for your business life?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I've seen it. I've seen the pendulum swing in the other direction, whether it's, people I know in business have relationships with, where their spouse could arguably be the biggest detriment to their business. Mm-hmm. And it is what it is. Right. And so for my successes and the ability that my wife allows me to do what I do and to support me, from the traveling and the time and the effort and the energy. I love to work. I love to teach. I love to teach people to sell and to do what's helped me to sell millions of dollars of products and services. I love to teach that and watch people do it and them be successful. That is just one of my favorite things in life. And I've just got that support at home where I know if I have to do certain things to make that happen, I don't have to second guess, is my wife going to miss me, or is she going to not be able to take care of things at home without me? Like, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And that's comforting.
No, congratulations. That's fantastic to have that bond, that relationship, and for you to be able to live your dream both in your personal and your business life, because often a spouse will squash your dream and then resentment comes in, and that's a whole nother conversation. And so congratulations on that. If you were to go back in time, if we could go back in that time machine, going back to when you were 20 years old, what would today's Lenny tell the 20-year-old Lenny? What advice?
I think first and foremost is to always just keep investing in yourself is what I would tell myself, because, it's maybe this is another one too. It's kind of that whole proverb of, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And that's not like specifically in Proverbs, by the way. It's just something that's been said out there. And that would be something that I would tell my younger self is, if something is too good to be true, it probably is. You got to work for it, right? Like, nothing comes easy necessarily in life. And I would just tell myself just to invest in me. I've been the best investment I've made in myself. We turned, my business partner and I remember when we started, our first company, we each put in like $5,000, and this company has generated millions of dollars, for each of us. And we built it. We've sold parts of it. We continue to build it and grow it. I'm sure at some point we'll sell it. And again, it was a $5,000 of investment of the money, monetarily, that I put in. And I really put it on me. And again, I had partners, I had other people that certainly can share in that success with me, but I put that investment in me. And I would just tell my younger self, that's the smartest investment you can make.
I agree. I would tell any young person to educate, invest in yourself, read books, go to conferences, go to school, get a mentor, and take care of yourself physically as well. Get good sleep, eat well, because without your body, your mind will eventually erode. You can't just, work 24/7, right? You have to actually take some time and rebuild everything. And, that's really incredible. So a lot of successful people such as yourself are very good at certain things. What is your superpower? What is the one thing that really sets you apart from most?
So something that a lot of people don't know about me is I never missed a day of school from kindergarten through college. So I didn't miss a class. I never missed a single day, 100% attendance. I was actually on the local news station 2 times, once after I graduated high school with perfect attendance, and the next after I graduated from college with perfect attendance. And that my superpower, Jim, is I show up. Bottom line, I'm there. I show up. I don't miss things. Again, never miss school. I can't think of a time I missed work for any reason. Like, even if I'm on vacation, I think that's my superpower is I think somebody once explained it to me is they said this to me. They said, you are nauseatingly, I think, is that a word? Reliable, or dependable, I think is what it was. So it's almost, it could make somebody nauseous how reliable or dependable I am. So that to me is my superpower. I show up and I think, I try to be present where I am. We hear that a lot too, like be where your feet are. So when I'm there, I try to give my full focus attention to where I'm at, in the present.
Interesting you bring that up, because for those of you who follow me at all on social media, I talk about the present. So many of us are regretting the past, or we're trying to achieve something in the future. What about today? Today's promised. Maybe not the rest of the day, but right now with Lenny is promised. Right here is promised. Okay? Yesterday's over. Can't do anything about it. Tomorrow is the future, but can't we just slow down a bit and be here? So if we're in a meeting, or if we're with our spouse, Let's be present with them, our children, or even just ourselves. Go for a walk in nature and just enjoy what we've got today, because the future isn't necessarily better, is it?
Right. Well, that's what they say, right? You've read this before, I'm sure, where, people who are super anxious probably think about the future too much. People that are super stressed probably think about the past too much. And instead of living in the moment, they have these anxieties and these stresses they're putting on themselves with things that are out of their control. And if something's out of your control, I mean, it's the same thing in door to door. If we want to make a segue back to door, I mean, I look at it and I go, if I get yelled at and somebody tells me that, I'm ugly or, my mom should have never raised me. And yes, all these things have been said on the doors that happens. But if somebody tells me that, when I go to the next door, I can't carry that negative energy with me to that next opportunity. And so it just rolls off my shoulders now. It doesn't nothing bother. It's funny because people, anytime somebody in conversation says, sorry if this offends you, I know it's not going to offend me. I've knocked doors for 25 years. There's nothing you could say to me that's going to offend me and make me feel bad for myself, because I would suspect that I've probably heard most all of it being a door-to-door sales rep.
Now, is that because it's your personality and always has been, or is that because you're calloused?
I think a little bit of both. I think, and this is another nice balance that my wife has given me, is she's very mellow and calm. And I was probably, as a younger guy in my teens and 20s, I was probably like most guys, and we're full of ourselves and we've got all this ambition and we'll fight anybody anytime and we'll, whatever. And she really just mellowed me out and had me more of that mindset of just being there, like we talked about, in the present and not letting things affect you negatively. Now, I believe there's two types of momentum. There's definitely negative momentum that builds, but there's also that positive momentum. So if something's good happening, soak it up. Like I always say, if you're, in any part of sales in your organization, if you're selling, I don't care if you're inbound or whatever, and you're having a great day, we had reps that they'd knock doors and they'd hit their goal by 5 o'clock and they'd say, okay, I just killed it today. I'm going to end. I'm done for the day. And I'm like, what? That just blew my mind. Like, wait a minute. The hardest sell of the day is the first sale. Once you make that one, subsequently, every sale after that becomes easier. Yeah. So you're on sale 5. You still got daylight to go. You're going to give up now? Because I guarantee you sell 6 today is going to be much easier than sell 1 tomorrow. And
that's a fact too.
Idea of the positive momentum, not just the negative momentum, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So before we go, let's talk about the direct sales playbook. You've got this new program to help small businesses, entrepreneurs in direct sales. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I felt like something missing is, my books are out there. I'm all over the place on social media, whether me or D2D Millionaire, my company. Like we're everywhere. And I post a ton of free stuff. Like I really want to teach people exactly how to do what I do. I've got hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel. Like there's so much out there. Maybe you invest $30-$40 in a couple of books as well. And you could probably create an awesome recipe. But then I would have business owners that would reach out to me to say, we actually want to bring you into our organization and have you spend a couple of days with our sales team to do your training camp. I have a 2-day training camp that I offer. Well, it's pretty expensive, right? To get me out there and to spend a couple of days. So I thought, where's that in between? And so what I've done is I created the training camp. I did the video. I wrote an SOP for home service specifically. Anybody that touches the sales process in the home service industry. I recorded the audiobook version of it as well. So you get the PDF, you get the audiobook. It's roughly, I think it's about 3 hours long of an audiobook. And then you get the 2.5-hour training camp video where I basically, you have that into perpetuity. You just have that. And now that's a playbook for you to follow to teach and onboard anybody that's touching the sales process in your business. That is missing in the home service space. Again, I've been consulting for over a decade now, and that's missing. And what happens is inevitably, Jim, is somebody's hired for with the company, and they have, maybe some parts of some training, or hopefully they've got some experience. Maybe this isn't their first rodeo, their first sales job. And then they get out in the field and it's just not working the way they thought it would work. They're off to a slow start. And so what does the owner say? the advice that's always given is, well, just go work harder.
Mm-hmm.
And although that might be true some of the time, most of the time it's because they haven't been taught a process that we can find out where those kinks in the hose are. Are they not even getting past the first 30 seconds of an initial approach because they're asking a question when somebody answers the door on the phone, right? If you knock on somebody's door and they open the door and you say, hey, how's it going today? You have completely given up control of the conversation. And then somebody's going to look at you, whether they answer you or not. They're probably going to say, yeah, we're doing fine. Actually not interested. You don't even get a chance.
Mm-mm.
And so just little mistakes like that we can flesh out in the whole process. I mean, I got like I said, 3-hour audio book of just the process and how every little situation that comes up, where you go and why you go there and how to do it. That's what's missing. And here's the bottom line. What comes down to, if sales reps, if they don't have success early, they're going to leave and they're gone. And so all that effort you put into hiring that rep, just getting somebody who's willing is so difficult as a business owner anyways. So I'm like, let me make them able. Like I've been making sales reps able for 20 plus years. So let them get into my system and my program and my processes. Now we've streamlined that big headache for most business owners. And here's what happens. I call it the 3 R's. If a rep is onboarded right, they get results early. If they get results early, they're going to be retained. And if they're retained, they're going to recruit their friends. And now you've got this cycle of, recruiting people that's helping you to continue to build and grow your business because you've got the right onboarding training. So that was my passion. That's what I put together that I just love. It's helping business owners all over the place in the US, in Canada, even outside over in the UK. I mean, I've got clients everywhere that are taking advantage of this SOP or this sales training program.
I have put in the show notes, everybody, Lenny's information. You'll be able to contact him and also click on resources that he's spoken about. And when I think about everything that you do and what you offer, it could be worth a couple thousand. It could be worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars to businesses and individuals over time.
Yeah. I will say this, every one of my clients, and I've got, again, clients for the past decade in the home service space. There is not a client that will not tell you that they've gotten an ROI on anything that they've spent with me. I can tell you that in full honesty, that every single one, if they adhere to how I teach and what I do, again, I do it for the average guy and the average gal. That's what I teach. I cannot teach somebody to be this dynamic in your face. You see these guys now, right, Jim? And they're the bodybuilders and they're like, blah, blah, blah. And you do this, and you get up at 4 a.m. and you got to do. I'm not that guy. I'm a normal average guy. Granted, I didn't miss a day of school. Most people probably haven't done that, but for the most part, average, normal guy. And I teach a process that anybody and everybody can pick up on.
Yeah, that's great. Lenny, it's so great to see you, my friend. Lenny Gray, the door-to-door millionaire. Go to the show notes, everybody. Learn more about it. Thank you so much for your backstory, too. It's always fascinating. And good job on your biggest win. That was a great answer. Your wife will love it.
Thanks, Jim. You're the best.
Thanks, Lenny. Have a great day.
You too.